Hi everyone, my name is Courtney and I am an elite coach for Team Elite Physique. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about some different non-nutritive sweeteners and kind of explain to you guys the differences between each, because not all artificial or non-nutritive sweeteners are created equal. So basically we're gonna look at aspartame, saccharin, sucralose, and steviosides, or stevia, as kind of our four main ones for today. Now all the information I'm gonna be telling you guys is actually coming off of charts that are from the National Library of Medicine, if you guys want to look up any of this information yourself. But what we're going to be focusing on is the calorie differences, the acceptable daily intake. Okay, so the first one that I want to talk to you guys about today is actually the most demonized one, and that is going to be aspartame. So the reason why I want to start with aspartame is it's got a bad name. You've probably heard that some, artificial sweeteners are associated with cancer and all kinds of crazy stuff, and most evidence is suggesting that that is actually not the case. And what I have here from the National Library of Medicine will tell us that aspartame is actually the quote-unquote safest of all of these non-nutritive sweeteners that we're going to talk about today. So the first thing I want to tell you guys is that it does have a little bit of calories. So aspartame has 4 kilocalories per gram. So sometimes that can throw off labels. We've all looked at a nutrition label and we added up the calories and we're like, wait, this doesn't match the serving size. And that's because sometimes, because it's a non-nutritive sweetener, they might not count those calories, but aspartame does have 4 kilocalories per gram. The acceptable daily intake is going to be 50 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. So it's really high in comparison to the others. So for example, some of the other ones are gonna have 0 to 4 or 5 milligrams per kilogram. Aspartame has 50, so it's 10 times as safe or tolerable for 90% of the population than some of the other ones that we're going to talk about. And so what causes the differences between the tolerance of these sweeteners, I suppose, is going to be the molecular structure, which I'm not gonna bombard you guys with today, but that's basically what dictates, how your body uses this basically chemical in the body. So the other thing about aspartame, and this is part of why it's been demonized, is that it has phenylalanine. So it's composed of aspartic acid and phenylalanine, but that phenylalanine can cause issues for some people. So it can actually cause neurological disorders if it's consumed in excess. And so if you're a person with PKU, taking monoamine oxidase inhibitors, neuroleptics, or if you have a sleep disorder or anxiety, this can cause issues if it's consumed in excess, which is part of why this particular sweetener has been demonized. And so this can also worsen feelings of anxiety or jitteriness for some people. And that's why this one in particular, again, has been really demonized. But for 90% of the population, you're not going to experience any of these issues, right? It's only if you have PKU, you're taking these specific drugs, that it's going to cause an issue. But it should be noted that phenylalanine, that I feel like I'm kind of demonizing it, it's an amino acid that is present in milk, eggs, and meat naturally. So odds are, if you're a competitor, you're already consuming meat, eggs, all of these things, it's not going to do anything crazy to you unless you have a specific condition that, again, consumed in excess can cause problems. Another interesting thing about aspartame is that its relative sweetness compared to sucrose, it's actually 180 times sweeter. So a lot of these sweeteners we're going to talk about too are significantly sweeter than sucrose. And again, that's going to be due to their molecular structure. All right, so the next non-nutritive sweetener that we're going to talk about is saccharin. So this one is a little bit different than aspartame in that it has 0 kilocalories. So this one is totally calorie-free, and the acceptable daily intake is going to be 5 milligrams per kilogram. So again, just looking at aspartame, that one was 50, saccharin is 5, so significantly lower than that of aspartame. So although it is calorie-free, it's generally far less tolerated, and the relative sweetness in comparison to sucrose is going to be 300 times sweeter. So although saccharin isn't tolerated quite as well, it does have more of that sweetness effect, so theoretically you could use less of it, but still get the sweetness effect that you want, and that makes up for some of the lack of, intake that you can handle without experiencing some possible GI discomfort. All right, so our next non-nutritive sweetener is sucralose. So this one, I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with. This one also has an acceptable daily intake of 5 milligrams per kilogram. So the same as saccharin, still far less than aspartame. It is 0 calories, so this one is totally calorie free. And the relative sweetness of this one is actually 600 times sweeter than that of sucrose. So far out of the 3 we've talked about, sucralose is going to have the highest sweetness, but not necessarily the best tolerance out of the ones that we've talked about so far. Okay, so the final non-nutritive sweetener that we're really gonna talk about today is STEVIOSIDES, AKA Stevia Trivia. You guys have all seen this in the grocery store. And so this one is also 0 calorie, which is great. This one's different than the others in that it is natural. It comes from a plant from South America. And so that's why I'm calling these non-nutritive sweeteners versus artificial sweeteners, because a lot of times stevia will get lumped in, but it is actually a natural plant-based sweetener. And so again, on top of being 0 calorie, this one is about 200 to 300 times sweeter than that of regular sucrose. So pretty comparable to that of like saccharin, I suppose, about 200 to 300 times sweeter. So more sweet than aspartame, not quite as sweet as sucralose. So to really, I suppose, give life to these comparisons, what I want to do is I want to tell you guys the can of soda equivalent that you could consume for each of these based on a 70 kilogram person, which would be about 156 pounds. But since a lot of us are going to be bikini competitors, I wanted to give you this through the context of a 120 pound bikini competitor. So for a 156 pound person, they could consume 28 cans of soda that are aspartame sweetened. They could consume 4 cans of soda that were saccharin sweetened. They could consume 6 cans of soda sweetened by sucralose, and roughly 5 consumed by stevia, but that's on the high side. So it could be anywhere from 1 to 5 for stevia, given the fact that it's 0 to 4 milligrams per kilogram. Then that one's actually the least well tolerated out of all the sweeteners we've talked about. So for a 120 pound bikini competitor, these numbers are gonna look a little bit different. So a 120 pound bikini competitor could consume about 21 cans of soda per day, sweetened by aspartame. They could consume 3 sweetened by saccharin, 5 by sucralose, and anywhere from 1 to 4 cans sweetened by stevia. Again, stevia generally being the least well tolerated out of all of these sweeteners. So some common products that you're gonna find these in. So aspartame is found in a lot of 0 sugar sodas, sugar-free ice cream, like reduced calorie fruit juices that you're gonna see, sugar-free gum, sugar-free salad dressings. Saccharin and stevia both are more of tabletop sweeteners, but you'll see occasional like beverages that are sweetened by stevia. There's one brand called Zevia in particular. Again, saccharin is actually going to be sweet and low, those little packets that you see. And you'll find that one in more like low calorie candies in particular. And then for sucralose, that one's kind of like aspartame. You're gonna find it in diet soda, you're gonna find it in gum, you're gonna find it in flavored syrups. And sucralose in particular is really common in sugar-free maple flavored syrups, or like sugar-free pancake syrup for those of us who like our anabolic French toast. So one final non-nutritive sweetener that I wanted to mention on here, but not really go into depth with because it's not actually on this table. There is no ADI for this one, but it's gonna be erythritol, and it's in a ton of recipes. If you follow a keto diet, you can buy it in the store as erythritol. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this one is, again, it's common, it does have calories, it's about 4 calories per gram, but there is no ADI set because it's so new and there's not enough research on it. But there is like generally recognized as safe amount, and it's not given in milligrams per kilogram, but it's given to you as a daily amount, and it ranges quite a bit. So this one is safe between 13 and 30 grams per day for 90% of people. Now that's a huge range. And one thing about this paper that I found really interesting, this was actually published by the FDA. It shows you the molecular structure, all kinds of cool stuff, but individual tolerance for this sweetener develops with continued ingestion. So I think that actually applies to a lot of these sweeteners. Some individuals cannot tolerate sucralose at all, but they can tolerate stevia. Some really can't tolerate aspartame without having GI discomfort or issues, but others can tolerate sucrose. For instance, I tolerate sucrose all the time. I love it. Coach Sam, it's a bad day if she has sucralose. So again, individual tolerance does vary. Toxicity with any of these is generally associated with just GI issues. So maybe a loose stool, maybe constipation. But that's generally as bad as it gets as far as toxicity goes with any of these. So again, to kind of wrap this up and bring everything together, aspartame for most people is going to be just fine, and it's actually much better tolerated than something like stevia. And then when we're looking at saccharin and sucralose, ones that are less popular, especially in bodybuilding, those are actually tolerated a lot better than stevia also, even though they're not natural. Again, stevia is going to be 0 to 4 milligrams per kilogram, and that one, both of those are 5 milligrams per kilogram. So I hope this gave you guys some insight on different sweeteners. I hope that this removes some of the stigma around certain ones in particular. I hope that you guys have an amazing rest of your contest season, that you can use this information to make your prep better, so you can eat all of the delicious foods and sweeten your food however it is that you like to, and keep killing your guys' contest season. I can't wait to see you guys up there. Have an amazing rest of your prep.